On the farm, every Friday on the farm is rabbit pie day. So every Friday that ever comes along, I get up early and sing this little song. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Bang, 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 bang goes the farmer's gun. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, 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 run. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Don't give the farmer his fun, fun, fun. He'll get by without his rabbit pie. So run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run.
How did you go from driving those trials to becoming a pilot, getting interested in flying?
Well, my brother-in-law owned a plane. And then they talked us into learning to fly, and we learnt from the Royal Newcastle Aero Club.
Both of you?
Yeah.
At the same time?
Yes,
Yeah.
and never knew why the instructor, who was the chief flying instructor, a chap called Bernie Schroff, kept us together for the 12 months we were learning to fly. Come back to the clubhouse, he said, well, you've broken a record. I said, how come? He said, you're the first man and wife in 50 years to get their licence on the same day in the same week at the Royal Newcastle Aero Club.
And he was after that record?
Evidently, we didn't know at the time.
Are you then thinking, well, what are we going to do with this?
Well, I used it to do...
We did wonder, but it was Bernie's idea when he realised that you'd go up and look for used cars in different country towns.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Parks, Dubbo,
So
Orange,
bring them back to Gosford and put them
Gosford,
on the used car lot.
Macquarie.
So you'd go looking for a used car, you'd put the used car in the back of the plane?
No, we weren't looking for model cars. We were looking for actual stock.
I know that. So
we used it as a business.
So the plane belonged to the business?
Yes, and he'd take a couple of the men with him, the salesmen, and if he bought anything, they'd drive the car back.
Right.
And Malcolm would fly back.
Right. This hunting around for used cars in the countryside, why was that a good thing to do? I mean, were there better used cars in the countryside than...
Well, there generally was no rust in them.
Yeah.
Remember, we were talking many years ago, before you get cars today and the rust protected. Because of being president of the Motor Traders Association, I therefore built up a personal relationship with some of the dealers in that town. And they'd ring up sometime and say, we've got a list of 2 or 3 cars that we want to wholesale to you. Can you come up and have a look at them? And that's how it started.
It was the 60s and 70s, and yeah they were definitely better. We could get really good, and then that would fill our used car lot with different types of cars and give the people a bit more choice. So
because there weren't that many in this area used cars available, huh? There wasn't
there wasn't a lot of dealers.
No.
And there wasn't the range of cars at that stage.
Right.
There was only...
And Bernie Schroff, the chief flying instructor, used to organise flying safaris around Australia, various Alice Springs, Perth, Broome, and we used to participate in most of those, I think. And
following a whole group of other planes.
Yeah, about 15 or 18 planes.
It'd vary with different where they went. Sometimes there'd be 15 planes, sometimes 20 or 25.
And then in 1988 we went in the Bert Hinkler bicentennial air race around Queensland, and there was 140 aircraft in that air race, and we finished 45th.
I'm pretty sure it was 45th, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And all this time, was that the same plane that belonged to Regal Motors, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you kept that plane for how many years?
We bought it new in 1980, and we sold it in 2015.
So you only ever owned the one plane?
Yes.
Yep.
What type of plane was that?
Piper Arrow.
Right.
It was
So-
a very, very nice plane.
But in all those hundreds of hours in the air, maybe thousands, you never had the motor stop on you, or?
No.
Any funny experiences over all those years?
In the Cessna, when we were learning, we took off one day from Maitland with an instructor,
Yeah.
the 2IC instructor, a chap called Rubbo, and we had to go to Coffs Harbour. So he said, follow that railway line to Dungog, which we did, and I thought the railway line still went on. I was looking for the railway line. Nobody's talking, just going on. And he suddenly said to me, "Where's the Pacific Ocean?" I said, "Over there." "Where's Port Macquarie? On the Pacific Ocean?" I said, "Yes." Well, he said, "Then tell me why we're heading to Armidale." Oh, so it turned like this, turned the plane around. So I ended up doing about 1,600 hours, which is quite a number for a private pilot, before I was grounded because of epilepsy. And Tricia,
God,
how many hours did you get?
970.
Really?
Yeah. I
Did
didn't
you keep-
quite make the 1,000.
Did you keep flying after he stopped?
Oh, only for 2 or 3 flights.
Really?
Because once he had epilepsy, he was in the back of the plane,
Right.
not even in the front. And then it was getting difficult to get in and out of
Yeah.
the small aircraft, and we weren't using it quite as much because of we both enjoyed it together.
So those 1,500 hours, you never had a mechanical problem with your plane in the air?
We had the gear didn't come down once.
Yeah.
We were took off, and well, we weren't sure whether it was down or up because it shows 3 green lights so that your wheels are down or up. And I was flying, I think.
That's right. They only showed 2 lights.
Yes, so we didn't know. We didn't think the other wheel had come down.
Because there are 3 wheels, huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So we radioed into Maryborough, was it? Or it was on the Queensland coast. Or Proserpine. We were going into Proserpine, and so we said we only had 2 greens. We didn't know what was happening. So they just asked me to do a low run in front of the tower, and about 500, 300, 400 feet, so that the mechanic could go out and have a look and tell me whether the wheel was down or not. Anyway, it was quite interesting. I'd never had that happen to me before, and they said no, they're down. There's 3 down. So I went around and did the circuit and came in, but they still had a fire engine on the side,
Right.
just in case there was it showed down with the green lights.
But maybe not locked down.
Locked down, yeah.
Right.
So we're coming in, and it was a bit hairy, a bit different, and we landed safely, and everything was. We went and got it checked there, didn't we?
Yeah, got it fixed.
Yeah.
And does flying stay fun all the time? I mean,
Yeah, it did. I loved it.
Did you?
Yeah.
What did you love about it?
You take off, and there's all the sky. There's all this room. It's not like on a road with the car.
No.
You can go left or right or up or down or go along the coast and at 200 feet, or you can be up at 10,000 feet, and I don't know, it's just the freedom, terrific freedom with flying.
And that moment when you break away from the ground, it's always magical, isn't it?
It is. It's just brilliant to feel it as you go up. Yeah, I loved it. I did aerobatics. I had to go at aerobatics.
Did you?
Yes, in a little Citabria. Yeah, and yeah, it was great.
So how would you rate the flying over the rally driving, for example?
Oh, I'd both rate them 100%. 100% flying, 100% for the rally driving. They were completely different. And it was great to fly into places where we had rallied 40 years later, like Fitzroy Crossing, and just see the difference in it and see if the concrete crossing was still there, the Broome and places like that, to Alice Springs.
So now let's get on to politics then. How did you get involved locally?
Well, the start of my political life was after I'd retired as the Commodore of the Aquatic Club. My rear Commodore there wanted to talk me into standing for council with himself, and that was 1971, and that was where I started my life as a councillor. And I served 2 years as a councillor, and then one of them councillors said, would I be prepared to stand for Shire President in those years? And I said I wouldn't have the numbers. He said, oh, let me worry about that.
So Shire President, what role is that? That doesn't exist today, does it?
No, it doesn't exist. The government changed that way back in about 1980.
Yeah.
And did away with the title of Shire President, and everyone became a mayor. And so I was elected Shire President, which I was there for 4 years. I had a policy platform to build a new council administration building, which was the highest, tallest building in Gosford, to establish a green heart to the city in Kibble Park. Which was just a dusty old car park.
Was it?
A performing arts centre, but have never ever achieved that, and build the Baker Street car parking station.
And that allowed Kibble Park to be a park,
right,
and not a parking area.
That saved that area.
That saved that area.
Now let's talk about, in my opinion, the most successful building you were involved in. That's the art gallery. How did that come about?
Well, we were looking for a site for the regional art gallery. Council was supportive at that stage, not 100% supportive, and we looked at various sites, and I was the chairman of the building committee, and we came to where it is located now, which was the first sewage treatment works in the Gosford city.
Oh, that was a sewage treatment works there?
Yes. Council backed the building of that on that site, but only by one vote. Only had to lose one vote and it would have been finished. And it was criticised by quite a few people within the community. And once again, I had a press who were not happy with what I was doing.
The press?
The media, the local media, thought the decision was wrong and shouldn't be built there. Anyhow, we went to tender on it. Jeff Grenfell, the local architect who'd already designed the council administration building and Baker Street car park as well, was commissioned by the council by only one vote to design the gallery, which he did do, and then we went to tender, and council accepted the tender by only one vote. Only one person had to change their mind. The Labor Party were a little bit split on this, but one of the Labor members, Dirk O'Connor, was very keen on the arts, and he was the one that strongly supported myself and the other councillors to give us the majority.
Right.
So then one day the Keith Dedden was the general manager of the council at that time. He called me into his office and he said, "Malcolm, we've got a problem." I said, "What, Keith?" He said, where we're going to build the art gallery is on the old sewage treatment works. I said, "I know that." He said, "We've never decommissioned it. It's going to cost $180,000 to do that. We'll have to build a price onto the tender." And with us in the office was Peter Wilson, who later became the general manager. He was a city engineer, and for half an hour we debated that. I said, "Keith, we can't do that." I said, "I can't guarantee we'll hold that one vote." I said, "We've got it, you know." And after a half an hour discussion, Keith Dedden turned to Peter Wilson and said, "Reallocate the money out of another project." And I thank you very much. And that's how you get it. And one of the lady reporters, I've got a feeling it was Joanne McCarthy from the Express, and she said to me before the opening, "How many people do you think will attend the opening, Malcolm?" It was over 2 days. I said, 1,500, 1,800 people would be my guess. There were 6,000 odd people went through there on the opening, and on the way after the Sunday when it was opening, Joanne was walking up to me and she said, "Malcolm, you got no worries now," and tore up a piece of paper in front of me. It's been a marvellous success.
Oh, she'd written something.
She must have written something.
So she'd already written
a negative report. Well, now, when you were arguing for it, if a visitor comes now, I think the visitor is struck by the beauty of the location, the way it fits into the greenery and everything.
Yes.
Were you arguing for that, or did you have that concept that it was going to be a very beautiful location? And
I thought the location was right, environmentally, which included all the greenery. The parking would be available there, and I really wanted to buy a couple of other properties on the corner when you drive in, but I couldn't get the council to support that at the particular time, because I said, I think it's going to really go ahead, and I said I would like to have additional parking.
but you certainly got the look of it right,
Yeah.
and the sighting of it and everything.
It's lovely.
It's lovely, isn't it?
And then the Japanese garden, did that
Probably.
incorporate together when
Did
you were
it- yeah.
doing the building?
The Japanese gardens were there first,
Okay.
and we incorporated the art
The
gallery
art gallery.
within the Japanese.
It was already in place, the Japanese
This
garden.
originated between the Gosford City Council
Right.
and Edagawa.
Oh, is there more one? No, this is...
A Japanese lady, this is the story that I was told, had lodged a lot of money when she died with Edagawa City Council. It had to be used to build international relations. It could not be spent or allocated to anything within Japan.
Right.
It must have been her mission because of the war,
Yeah.
and councillor Shire President was then, Pat Harrison, negotiated with the Mayor of Edegawa, and they contributed £750,000 towards the Japanese garden.
Edegawa did.
Yes, and that's a lot of money in those years.
But how did they focus on Gosford? How did that happen?
Because of the relationship between Councillor Pat Harrison and the Mayor, I can't remember his name, not Mayor Tarter, but the original Mayor of Edegawa.
They knew each other.
Yes, they met.
Ah.
I don't know the history of that.
The history of that one. No.
But that was fortuitous, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Amazing.
Wow. Back to the council. Was it ever acrimonious, this debate on the thing, or did it come to sort of...
Well, there were big arguments, but nobody come to blows over it.
No.
Or anything like that.
Right.
And there was a lot of pressure put on the other councillors. I think Tony Sanson was the mayor at the time. We were talking about building it and also signing the contract.
Was he for it?
No, because he was a Labor councillor. I think there were, from memory, there were 5 Labor councillors on the council at that stage.
Right.
And remember, we only had 9 councillors.
Right.
And there was a lady called Lynn Bockholt and Dirk O'Connor, who were members of the left wing of the Labor Party. Tony and the 2 others were the right wing, and there was a split, the left wing split from the right wing, so I had the 2 left wing
On your side?
On my side. Unusual for a Liberal councillor to get the left wing of the Labor Party.
Right.
But they had a distinct interest, and so did Claire O'Connor, Dirk's wife, in promoting the arts.
Right. So getting that art gallery built must have given you a lot of satisfaction.
It certainly did, especially as it was hard to get it approved by council by only 1 vote. Very satisfying that it's there, and the people are using it even more than I expected.
Good. Now, it brings to me a big question, and that is, how can we encourage people to run for office who really have a sense of community service?
I suppose I've got to give an example of myself. I was more interested in building my business up, and once it was built up, then a friend of mine taught me into standing for council. Once I was in council, I found it very interesting.
But you didn't go in with an idea of public service, really?
I've always been keen, even when I went to school, about doing, not entering the role of public service, but doing as much as I could, because I joined the Apex Club when I was a young man. Then I went into the Rotary Club of Gosford, and both those organisations are there to give public service.
But so how would you think that we could redesign our system somewhat in order to encourage people who have a genuine sense of public service? Because you can see the sparkle in somebody's eyes, somebody who's really sincere.
I suppose it's very difficult to get people interested today, I've found, especially with the advent of social media, Facebook and all that. People get, oh, I don't want to be in that. I don't. Far different than when I started in public life, where there was only the radio and the TV and that role of media. Now it's so wide, people are frightened.
Why is that a negative, though?
I think people don't want to have that much exposure to their lives, especially their private lives.
You go in there for politics, and the next thing, if you've done something wrong, the whole paper is all about your thing you did wrong, not what you've done right or helped people with or achieved. It's so that,
too much on the negative, really.
Yes, it could be, but you do have to have that drive of wanting to give so much of yourself. Malcolm that was all he wanted to do, was go out and do whatever he could in the community.
Yeah. Talking about public life, you then went on, of course, after council to become a politician, didn't you, at the state level? And
in 1973, I was elected as the state member for Gosford, and I served one term, 1973 to 1976.
So you'd moved up from the council level, from local government to state level.
Well, actually, I was the MP for Gosford. I was the Shire President at the same time, and I was the President of the Motor Traders Association of New South Wales.
You were slightly
That kept me rather busy.
So you only served one term as state term?
One term.
Right. And you lost it by
72 votes. Only 36 people had to change their minds.
Right.
It was a bit hard to take. I would have rather lost it by 3,000 votes rather than 72.
And why did you lose it?
Lost it because of the Kibble Park.
I've heard tell about Brooks's blunder. What was that?
Brooks's blunder is what the media headlined when we moved the cars out of Kibble Park to build the city Green Heart to Gosford. And,
The Green Heart, yeah.
So that's what, and I had to live with that. And that was partly the reason why I lost the state election. Lost it because the Prime Minister wound back the funeral benefit scheme for pensioners.
What about the railways? Was that an issue then?
The railways was always an issue during my term, and as they are today.
What, people feeling the service wasn't good enough?
The service not good enough, and overcrowding of trains, especially during commuters' journeys backwards and forwards to Sydney.
I heard there was somebody very effectively campaigning against you on the station, Kevin somebody.
Yeah,
And what was he doing?
handing out brochures, don't vote for Brooks. Don't vote for Brooks's blunder.
Now, we were talking about disappointments. You had 2 or 3 disappointments.
Well, mainly 2, Mike. One was the Performing Arts Centre, which I'd campaigned for and put on my policy document as far back as 1972. And it's never been achieved since, of course. The other was, being a former rally driver, I wanted to establish a driver training facility at Summersby, similar to the police one at St Ives in Sydney and the other police one in Canberra.
So that would have been a track, remote from the roads, far away from any dangerous situation.
Yes, and a circuit and a straight where you could water the road, practice when you had water on the road, just how the car would skid, and manoeuvrability by a driver in all the different aspects of a car. And people could go there, be sent there and learn to drive very efficiently and properly. The RTA at the road transport could take instructors up there and also do driving lessons.
So why didn't that come about?
The land we wanted to build it on was Crown land, and in those years it was very difficult to get past the Crown Lands Act of Parliament to establish or build anything on.
Yeah. That would have been a great asset, huh?
I believe so.
So what about things you did achieve and that you were very proud of, something to do with sewage?
From the regional sewage scheme, which has been adopted by the council and finally adopted by the state government, I was very pleased to raise the quality standard of the effluent from 40 to 30 down to 1010.
Well,
The
up to
lower the
10.
number,
Yeah, lower the number.
the higher the quality, and that was the highest quality of any sewage treatment plant within Australia.
What about your role in all this? Obviously you supported him in campaigns and things.
Yes.
But you were a sounding board, I guess, with all the issues?
My role, I suppose, was more just to keep the home fires burning and look after the children and handing out how-to boats,
Yeah.
putting things in letterboxes. That was a big job. always doing that. But yeah, I suppose, and just letting him do it, not arguing or, because I don't know, it's a big thing for the wife you lose out on a lot of their presence with you, their company,
Your partner.
Yes, you have to accept, because you could easily have a big argument and say, well, look, you're going to council or you're going to stay with me, but you don't do that. That's their love. So you encourage. I suppose I encouraged. I tried to, I'd be an encourager, I suppose, and a help.
Right. But there might be a risk of disagreeing on an issue, would there? And so therefore you wouldn't get too involved?
I don't think there was, because I pretty well I was really pleased about the art gallery, and council needed the building. That was great for all the councillors and the public servants to have that great building to work in.
It's considered effective, is it, the building?
As far as I know.
Yeah, is that true, Martin? It's considered a success, the building?
The council building?
The council building, yes, very much so. Grenfell and Fraser really designed. They spent a lot of time coming to the design. They visited various areas and cities in Australia. I'd say they would have gone to about a dozen. Then they flew to America.
Really?
They'd spent a fortnight in America looking at buildings and researching. So I think they did a first-class job. And they covered the outside of the building, why it looks the way it does, because it resembles Gosford sandstone.
One of the great disappointments to you must be the redevelopment of the foreshore area of Gosford. I mean, there was that wonderful plan by
John McInerney.
Yeah. He came in and did this big plan. Can you tell me something about that and what happened and why?
Well, I was the mayor at the time that he was appointed by the Labor government to come in and re-look at the Gosford CBD, including the waterfront. I was a bit cautious about him as being a Labor puppet, I would call it, and only doing what the government wanted to be done. But I got to respect him very much. We became firm friends. He went away, he went around what he was doing in a very professional and business manner, and I fully endorsed the plan that he came up with. So did the council.
What was it called? Our vision, or was it?
Our city, our destiny.
Yeah.
And then the state, there was an election at the state government, and I forget the minister's name at this stage.
Knowles?
Yeah, Craig Knowles was the minister for planning, and he had endorsed the plan, and the government had accepted the plan, and then pressure was brought upon the government, mainly by the Gosford District Chamber of Commerce, that the plan was not suitable in various aspects. Nothing happened.
Was it that the local Chamber of Commerce didn't feel it was business oriented enough?
Yes. That the buildings weren't tall enough, that it was too restricted for the development of the city. The city had to be more like Chatswood and some of those, which I didn't agree with. You can't get parking, you can't get traffic. There's a multitude of reasons if you're trying to put too many people into such a small area.
Right.
And it reminds me of the city in Canada, Victoria, the capital of British Columbia, and it's got a big old hotel at the background to it, and I visualised for Gosford a performing arts centre there, not a hotel, and have where people can walk around the waterfront. The only thing, of course, they don't have is a highway that goes through.
That's our problem in part, isn't it?
Well, it is. When I was the mayor in the 70s, we did propose the east-west bypass to take the cars off the freeway out to the Terrigal turnoff at the northern part of the Gosford CBD, so that the traffic that was going through would not have to go around the waterfront. But,
Really?
that's still on the planning board somewhere, somebody told me.
It wouldn't come down into Gosford.
No, but it was coming over North Gosford somewhere, Wyoming, over that way, and to link up with the Terrigal roundabout.
So that would have allowed the waterfront to retain its more pedestrian-friendly quality.
Yeah.
So would you say that's one of your greatest disappointments? What happened to the... you say his name was McInerney, was it?
Yeah, John McInerney.
Is that one of the greatest disappointments of the...
Yes, it would be, because I think what he proposed, it would be the ideal solution to the Gosford waterfront.
Right.
But if they're going to put high-rise buildings all along the waterfront, like at one stage the government proposed 10-storey finger wharfs going out. You know, you couldn't have that on the Gosford waterfront, it's not big enough.
But what they've done already with the tax building and so on, isn't it too late for the McInerney idea? Or not?
I would tend to agree with you, Mike, but I don't think you can make a judgment until you can see what they're coming up with to intermix that with the tax office.
Right. Were you against the relocation of the school or not?
When I was the mayor, I got the council to agree, and we employed Grenfell and Fraser again to link a performing arts centre with the school. And I'd spoken to the regional director of education, who was quite interested in the idea, because there was enough room there to leave the school and build a performing arts centre next to Georgiana Terrace and link the two together, which could be used for the school and also for the public.
Wonderful.
And those plans are still in council. Anyone can go and have a look at them.
Well, we're just about out of tape, but maybe anything to just sum up final thoughts?
Yes, I suppose I could say one thing. We've got to be very sensitive of how we develop the Central Coast. It's got to be sustainable development. You just can't bring more and more people in here, because it's only to compound the problem, and I believe there's got to be a certain limit placed on growth in the future.
So you're actually talking about quality of life then?
Yes, I definitely am. I believe enhancing our quality of life must be a prime objective in any future planning for the Central Coast.
And it's not mentioned in the documents, is it?
No, it's rarely mentioned in any planning document.
And yet it's key.
Yes.
Right. So that would mean retaining our village atmosphere, wouldn't it?
Most definitely, especially village areas like Kilcare, Batonga, McMaster's Beach, Copacabana, Avoca Beach, Nora Head, all the villages along the coastline. They need to be kept as low-rise, community sort of villages.
And what about keeping our coastline green too?
Most definitely, yes. And I would hate to see the ridge lines of the Central Coast built on.
You're a big supporter of the COS program, huh?
Yeah, big supporter of COS. When I was the mayor or the Shire president, the chief town planner at the time was a chap called Noel Hewitt. He said he came to me and said he wanted to protect the ridge lines and have no development. And I said, Noel, if I want to buy a house to live in, I don't want to buy it down the top of the bottom of the valley. I want to build it on the top of the hill so I get a view. So that was the end of that discussion. And then for the next 3 months, I ended up going with him at his invite to certain lookouts, what we should do here and what we could do here. No mention of the ridge lines, but psychologically I could look back to what he was talking about. And I went to him one day and I said, you know that scheme you put forward about protecting the ridge lines, what did you have in mind? He said no buildings above 60 metres would you support it? I said, yes. He said, I'll bring a report to council. Yes, I said, I'd give support to that now. I can see the benefit. And I thought the report would take 2 or 3 months. It came up at the next council meeting. In 2 weeks, he must have had it in his drawer all the time. And that's how you got the beautiful ridge lines around.
So you credit him with...
Oh, yes. It was
what
his
about
credit.
Robert Bell? Didn't he play some part in it?
No, Robert wasn't in council at that time.
Okay.
Robert came about later, after I retired from council, and he was the initiator, I'm pretty sure, of the Coastal Open Space System.
Well, that's what we're talking about, isn't it?
No, mine was all the ridge lines that you look out and
Right.
see around there.
Isn't that part of COS?
Not all of it.
Oh, but it is
A lot of
linked
it's
in...
national parks.
Okay.
Some of it is. But the Chief Town Planner, Noel Hewitt, brought in the zonings that restrict development
Above 60 metres, huh?
above 60 metres above line
Nobody
water.
knows that. That's fascinating.
It's records in the council are there.
Yeah.
That's
But
a bit of research for you.